Okay. I'm going to start. If there's anybody out there or not, I don't know. Oh, but turn this volume down on my phone. So let's make a start. Basically, I had a question by a friend of mine back home in Northern Ireland, and I'm going to start off by reading this question out, and then what I'm going to do is sort of attempt to answer some of it. The thing is, there's no one answer, one direct answer for the things that he was asking me about. Well, let's read out the comment first, and then we're going to get into this, because this is really directed. This question is really directed at those beginning lead guitar, or those who've been playing some lead guitar, intermediate players, but are just wanting to improve, really. So let's have a look. So the question, or the comment said, "Hi Roy, good to hear some great guitar stuff. Thanks now. Here M8, well I think that's a BMW, isn't it? An M8, mate. Any chance on telling some of us simpler folk about the different places for scales? For example, A minor scale starts on fret 5, but you can also be on fret 7. Just not 100% sure what's meant by that, but anyway, we'll look at this. Only found that out today. And what about safe places in a lead break, finding the A note in the scale, etc. So there's a lot to delve into there, and what I'm going to do is we'll try to answer these separately, but at the same time, you know, none of this stuff is separate. It's all intertwined, interlinked. So basically, get to know your fretboard is the first thing for your lead playing. In general, just get to know your fretboard. So learn the notes. Now, that doesn't mean you have to sit down and learn every note. You know, if you're in standard tuning, you have to sit down and learn every note of the fretboard, because I tried that when I was younger and I just done my head in, just didn't enjoy it at all. What I suggest you do is learn a wee bit of music theory. You'll be able to go back and watch this again. I'll have this up for a few days, so watch it again and take notes, write anything down. But basically the theory is, and it's a very, very simple process to understand, there's 12 notes on our fretboard with 12 notes. Now we're not going to worry about all 12. As a beginner intermediate player, don't worry about all 12 notes all over the fretboard. But what we're going to do look at is 7 of them, the 7 natural notes of music. And it's easy to understand or remember if you know the alphabet, because it's the first 7 letters of the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It just carries on. It doesn't get any harder than that. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now, if you know where any of those notes are to start off with, then you can find the other notes. And you do know where they are, because if you've used a tuner, you've got your guitar in tune, you know this is an E, this is a B, G, D, A, E. So you've got a lot of starting notes for reference there. So the little piece of information to remember is the 7 letters of the alphabet go just carry on in the order that you would normally say them, and that's if you're running up the fretboard, A, B, C, D, etc. It gets no harder than that. B and C are beside each other in terms of frets. E and F are beside each other on the fretboard, but all the other notes are a fret apart. So basically you think of it, all the notes are a fret apart, or sorry, 2 frets apart, a tone apart. Everything's a tone apart except for B and C and E and F. So if I go, for instance, to the A string, go up a tone, what's after A in the alphabet is B. What's after B? C. Remember, B and C are beside each other. After C in the alphabet, it's D. So up a tone or 2 frets. Up another tone is E. We're just going through the alphabet. After E is F, but we know E and F are beside each other. Up a tone is G. And then we're back to A. It's as simple as that. If your guitar's in tune, standard tuning, well, in any tuning, as long as you've got a reference note to start with, you can find notes on your fretboard. Now, I started on A, but think of it as like the numbers on a clock on the wall, and if you're going clockwise, those numbers don't change. You know, you could start at 1, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You could start at 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. You could start at 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It doesn't matter where you start, those numbers never change, they're running order. And it's the same for your notes on your guitar. This is E. What's after E on the alphabet? It's an F. Remember, E and F are beside each other. Next note's up, 2 frets up, a tone up. After F is G. After G, we're back to A. Up a tone, up another tone. It's B. B and C are beside each other. B, C. C, up a tone is D. D, what's after D in the alphabet? E. So you can name, starting with the open string, lots and lots of notes. You can find all these notes, and that's a really good place to start. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Just start anywhere. Start with one of those strings and just learn that pattern, learn those notes. So that's a good thing to do. So now you're starting to name notes on every string. Your 7 natural notes. You've only got 5 other notes, by the way, because we've only got 12 notes in terms of fretted notes. We've got sort of in between notes, you know, when we're bending strings. But in terms of our basic information, A to G are 7 natural notes. We have 5 other notes that are called enharmonics. We're not going to worry about those. Don't even go there at this stage. Be aware that they're there, and it's something we can look at a different time. But basically, just to get to know your natural notes, and just start on one string and run up and down that string, or just run up it. When you get to the 12th fret, it's just going to repeat itself. E, F, G, E, F, G, just carries on. So you only have to go from the open string, the nut, to the 12th fret, and you've got it. So you've got your 7 natural notes on every string. That's a really good place to start. Okay, so I'd recommend you do that. Here's the deal. There's no one thing that's going to be better for you than, you know, something else. It's about looking at it this way, looking at it another way, looking at this. It's all these parts that you're putting together. Basically, you know, don't be thinking, oh, if I practice this, then I'll be able to do this or this, that, and the other. Just practice lots of things. It's like making soup or stew. You know, you've got an empty pot, the cauldron, put the potatoes in, put the carrots, the onions, whatever you want to taste. It's the same with this. If you're practicing lots of different things, then that becomes part of, you know, what you are as a musician. So work at that. If you don't remember any of that, re-watch the video. But hopefully, even if you don't remember it, it sort of makes sense. 7 natural notes of music for 7 letters of the alphabet. They run in that order, a tone apart or 2 frets apart, except for B and C and E and F. Okay, so that's I would recommend you do that, because as a lead guitarist, or you're playing lead guitar, you want to know. Well, you don't have to, but I hope you want to be aware of what you're playing, especially if you're dealing with other musicians. They would be happy that you do know what you're doing. Okay. Many years ago, there was another guitar player actually showed me this pattern, and it sort of made sense to me. It was one of these little patterns that I learned that I thought, why didn't I learn that years ago? Well, I said that at the time, but it's knowing, for instance, where all of the A's are, or all of the C's, or and I'll show you this pattern. I can plot out any of my notes. They were all C notes, by the way. I could do it with A's. I can plot out all the A's. I can plot out any note, all the G's. Doesn't matter. You know, wherever I want to play those, I can find them. And I'm going to break this pattern down and show you it in the key of A. Now, what I think, or not what I think, what I recommend you do, let me just check this here. What I recommend you do is play these and learn this in this one note all over the fretboard. So this is like a different approach to what we've done already, to what I recommended before. So it's about, as I say, it's about having lots of ways to, you know, come at the instrument, you know, approaching your fretboard and getting to know it. And hopefully some of this starts to stick, whatever you're doing. So I'm going to spell out all the A notes, and then again, if you have to go back over the video, do so and just practice these. So the A, this A here, I'm going to do it from the low string. So this A on the 5th fret, low E string, and there would be another A, and that's on D, D7. So we'll just practice that. From this A, we can go open A string, of course, and there's another A at G2. So from this A, I can start to think about using scales to get from one A to another. But it's good to know where that, you know, your starting point and your finishing point. So just practice these little shapes of connecting your A notes. There's another A. I'll connect that with the A on the B string of fret 10. So that's A12, B10. Also G14, that's just the octave of this. So it's just about practicing those shapes. There's an A on the D string, fret 7. We can join that up with B10 or E5. We can join that A on the G, G2 with that E5. These are all little ways, just little octave patterns that you practice, and just do it in A. Don't worry about doing it in any other note, because what happens is with the luxury of running patterns on the guitar. So if I do this for A, I can do it for G, C. It doesn't matter. It's the same pattern. So we've connected this A here, this A, this A, second octave. And just run those. You don't have to run them at speed. You don't have to play them in any particular order. You can start low and work up high, like this. Sorry. And just run them anywhere. Just to get familiar with those octaves, A to A. Because if you're looking to practice your scales, you want to have a starting point and a finishing point. So that's a great way to just to get to know a note over the fretboard as well. So that's sort of different to what I mentioned there before, because that's learning a selection of notes. But this is just taking one note. And just running that pattern. It means when I'm playing, you know, if I'm on this A, there's an A, 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 another A, A. So, and it's just about being familiar. That's nothing other than sitting down and learning those patterns and practicing them. Don't have to do it all at once. Just even say, well, for tonight I'm just going to be able to connect this A note with any other A notes, you know, that's within reach. This type of thing, or this one. As to say, that's just a really useful thing, because if you can do it with the A note, you can do it with any note. Say C. Yeah, it's just the same little patterns. So, and don't be in any hurry. I mean, that's probably quicker than I would practice those normally, or did. Very, very simple thing, but if you're learning to play lead guitar, or even if you've been playing lead guitar, this is a way of establishing parts of the guitar. You know where you are, and that sort of ties in with, I think, what Nell was asking me there, or I think, because you see I'm playing the minor pentatonic from fret 7. Well, if I'm in the key of A, well, there's fret 7. There's an A note. So I've got two obvious places straight away that I can join up one A to another. Here's the first one. And the other one. Both A pentatonic minor scale. Which leads on probably to one of the other points, or one of the other questions he asked. Basically, safe notes. What are safe notes? Well, before that, let's just talk about the A pentatonic minor scale in general. Guitar seems to be an instrument that would tend, or a lot of times I notice in lessons, that they will show you a 2-octave version of the scale. But there's very few other instruments in the world that you will start off learning a 2-octave scale. You just won't. What I recommend is you learn 1 octave of the scale. So if I'm saying, for instance, start on this A, just practice 1 octave of the scale. Doesn't matter which one it is. Just practice one version of the scale. What's important, or what I recommend you do, and I did it, it definitely helped me, was if I'm practicing any scale, I'll practice from the root note of the scale, that's a start note, in this case it's a key of A, and I'll go to the octave. The reason being, if I do this, And you see this all the time in magazines as well, like a 2 octave scale, and they'll show you. Now straight away that confuses the ear, because your starting point and finishing point weren't the same. You start on an A, and your highest point was a C. That could be the key of C. Using the same notes, that could be the key of C. Now, I understand after A note, the next note in a pentatonic minor scale is a C note. And you want to obviously add that to your playing, but if you're trying to learn the scale and understand the sound of the scale, it worked for me. It might not work for everybody, but it's almost like you bookends. You start with the root note and you go to an octave. That lets you hear the character of the scale. And the more you practice that scale, just from the root note to the octave, the more you get to understand and recognize the sound of the scale. And it just helps develop your ear, because what happens if I'm listening to a piece of music with my private students, the one-to-one lessons, so I'll hear on, Zoom or Skype or whatever. If that's something that you're interested in, just send me an email, royfultonmusic@hotmail.co.uk, and we can get something organised. But besides that, if I'm listening to a piece of music and working it out for one of my students, or in the past I was working it out for myself for playing in a live situation. If I hear a guitar player playing, not all the time, but most of the time, I know where the notes are coming from, even before I've picked up the guitar. Because most guitar players, not all, there's plenty of exceptions to it, of course there is, but most of the music that I would listen to, or my students would listen to, especially blues and blues rock, country, you find that guitar players will use a certain collection of notes in general for a solo. They might add extra notes, of course, there's no rules, but the bulk of the information of the notes will come from one particular scale. So it's not a rule, but it's a general guide that works most of the time. So that's a pretty good thing to be able to do, is when you listen to a collection of notes and recognize, oh, that's, it's giving you a certain scale, and it could be minor pentatonic, it could be getting into modes, Mixolydian, Dorian, it could be anything. But the thing is, if you've practiced the scale from a root note to the octave, you start to recognize the sound of how that minor pentatonic scale sounds. And then when you hear somebody using it, you're more likely to think, well, that's familiar, I've heard that before. And then you're able to then go to your guitar and explore and find out exactly. As I say, it doesn't work all the time, but it's definitely helped my ear when I'm practicing any scale. So it doesn't matter if I play like E Mixolydian, I'm going to play from E to E. It doesn't matter, C major. I'm going to play from C to C. I'm going to play from the root note to the octave. And it really helps me develop that sense of understanding, understand the character of the scale. So I would recommend you do the same for your minor pentatonic. Practice 1 octaves. Don't be practicing 2 octaves, because if you're starting off in lead playing and you're unsure where you are in the fretboard, 2 octaves is just too many notes. It's good information, but it's information you're probably not going to be comfortable using. So just start off with 1 octave. It doesn't matter which one. And there's back that little pattern I was showing. Just take one of those octaves and find out those notes for your minor pentatonic. So that's a really really good thing to do, because now you're starting to get a kind of understanding of of you're breaking the fretboard up into sections now, and you're going to break it up into sections that are you'll be able to cope with, as opposed to this just blank piece of wood. And for many years it was like that for me, but I found that it's it's like anything. It's like building a house. Not that I build houses, but it's brick by brick. It's piece by piece, and it's the same for knowing your fretboard. You don't have to try and master it all at once. What a simple thing to do is just be able to play a solo in one position on the guitar, in one version of the scale real well, before you think about then adding another position. But say you get the minor pentatonic in A here. Then you can start thinking about, well, where else can I play it? Well, where's closest to that or adjacent to that? Where can I connect easily? Well, we've got this note, and we know there's another A, so we might go. So we might join this A, or these two A's with this, because we have that note in common. So you might practice a new position where you just go on one, again it's one octave. When I'm practicing those one octave scales, again I'm playing them a bit slower than what I'm doing here. Working on three things, being accurate, being clear and being even. Make sure that it's the correct notes. Make sure that the notes are nice and clear. Not that sort of thing. And just at a nice even tempo. So it's accurate, clear and even. So what you could do is maybe practice this version of the scale, and once you're happy with that, we'll think, well, this is a joining note or it's a common note. So I might go. So what I did was I went up this version of the scale, I had this common A note, and then came down this version of the scale. So now we've got a bit more fretboard that we can use. But I learned those separately. You take them separately. Just do some bite-sized pieces that you can cope with, that you can remember, that your fingers can remember. So you might practice then joining up, as I say, two of them. You might add then, further down the road, you might add a third or a fourth. This one, or this one. But you build these up. You don't try and do it all at once, and you don't try to remember it all at once. Well, you can, but most times well, for my tiny brain, it got very confusing very quickly. So I would just play it in one part of the guitar, which leads then. Just one more thing before I move on. As I say, it's just good practice to go up one and down the other, just to get familiar with using the scale in two different positions. But then at any point you can jump between those two once you're comfortable with both those, because you'll actually find it. That's a common note, there's a common note, there's another one, common, common, common. So in fact all these notes here are common in the scale. Of course it is, because it's the scale. So we can play between each version of the scale. and just slide between, play some notes. You know, just slide between them and play them. Just mix them up. But do that slowly. And the best way, or the way I think of that is, you know, it's like, it's all about pathways and remembering pathways. It's like, I'm at the front door, going to the gate. Okay, I've got to the gate, but I don't want to go any further because I'm lost. I'm running back to the house again. But I've created this pathway, I'll remember. Okay, next time I go down to the gate, open the gate there, turn left, turn right. Well, I don't know what's left, I'll go left. Go down there, oh, I must get back to the gate before I get lost back. Next time you go down to the gate, you turn right and back again. And you keep doing that, you keep going out a bit further, and you start exploring, oh, I'll go down this road. But it's creating these pathways, and it's the same, well, it's the same for me on the guitar. It's about creating these little pathways that I remember, and having just these places that I know that I won't get lost. And then I'll just start to stretch a bit further with it and a bit further and just kind of develop that, or just did develop that through time. But at any time I got lost, I was always going back to what I knew was there, or what I felt comfortable with. Which, now last the part of the question was like playing safe notes. What are safe notes? Well, that could be open to interpretation. For me, safe note is a good note, landing on a good note in a song. So now we're getting more involved in understanding, you know, our chord theory and the rest of it. So it's really, a safe note is always going to be a note that corresponds with the chord you're playing, but that opens up a world of, you know, of music theory, understanding, you know, how chords are made. If you know that an A minor chord is A, C, E, or D minor, D, F, A, or, you know, an E7, E, G sharp, B, D, or whatever. You know, if you learn that theory, then it makes this a lot easier to understand. Not necessarily to play, because you have to physically play, but just to understand what's happening. But any note that's going to sound okay against basically the chord you're playing. So that's why I understand chord theory is good, because you know straight away, even before you play a note, you're going to know what notes are going to sound good against the chord being played. But days before, a long time before internet, before CDs and cassettes, you know, it was vinyl for me, and there was no backing tracks or jam tracks. And what I would have done was I would have taken a chord like an A minor and just played the note and try to remember in my head, musical brain, the A minor, and think, well, did that work? Yeah, you know, just compare the note to the chord. So that's starting to sound a wee bit out. You can hear it there. But that sounded good, and that sounded safe. The E sounds good. Not surprising, the A, C, and E are the three notes that make up an A minor chord. A, C, E. That G sounded okay. And obviously the octave is going to work. So for an A minor chord, there's a mental note straight away for me. They all sound pretty good, maybe except that D note. But of course I can still use it, but I will use that note in passing. And if I'm playing an A minor chord, I'm not going to finish on that D note unless I want, you know, I want that kind of outside sort of sound, or I add a bit of tension. So that's how I learnt. Well, it's really by trial and error as well. As I say, you can get into the theory side of things. It makes it a lot quicker and easier to understand. But that's just a good thing to do, and just take your chord, take the chords of a song, or if you're playing blues and a minor blues. Now that D note's going to sound good. And if you've noticed, at all time I've just kept within that minor pentatonic, one octave. You can start branching out. If you feel like branching out and you're confident to branch out, do so. Of course, that's what you want. Eventually you want to be able to do this all over the fretboard. But if you're not, just stick within one area and just try to come up with musical phrases. Just try to be musical with it. Try to play something that is memorable, is catchy. So, for instance, if I play something like this, well, there's just a little lick. Now, we know that D note is going to sound good with a D minor chord. The E note is going to sound good with an E chord. So you're being more selective with your notes. You're not just running the pattern up and down, which I did a lot at the start. Spent a lot of time just doing that, wondering why it didn't sound maybe as good as I could do, you know. Okay. So we've got there's a couple of questions. Niall's joined us. Okay, good man. Niall, there's Brian. Brian has joined us. Yeah. The thing that Brian was saying, I got confused. I was always practicing pentatonic shapes, not the scales. That's the thing. All the books from I remember back in the 70s and band guitar magazines, early 80s band guitar magazines, they showed you all the possibilities, but that doesn't, all because there's lots of possibilities, it doesn't mean you jump on board and try and learn those straight away, because most of the time it will confuse the ear. I would stick, as I say, to one octaves and then start branching out. You know, only when you're confident with that one octave. Let's be honest, if you watch you know, a lot of guitar players, especially blues players, they'll play within a certain area, you know, and they'll use a certain kind of box shape, and they'll go beyond it, of course, but a lot of times the heart of what they're doing, or the bulk of what they're doing, is coming from one place. Now, another good thing to do, if I play a phrase, you know, let me see. Try to reproduce what you're doing in one place on just slightly different to where you already are. So instead of going, I might go. That alone, I used to do a lot of that. Again, there was no backing tracks and there was no, there was nothing but the guitar just to explore. And also if you're practicing the scale, even think, is there more than one way I can play this minor pentatonic scale? You know, let me see. I'll give you an example. So there's an A, there's an A. Here's one way to play that. Here's another. Here's another. 3 different ways just to play that from there to there. Again, I think of it as pathways. Now, here I've got 3 choices. I can go here. And you can watch this video again, slow it down and stop it, pause it and work those out. I'll play it slowly. But there's 3 ways of playing the same thing. So that gives me a lot of possibilities. I'm doing is I'm connecting those, I'm just connecting them up. But if at some point before I've connected them up, I've sat down and practiced them individually, 1 octaves. And then, as I say, just take 2 of them, start connecting them together. And then eventually you'll get comfortable with 2. And it can be beside each other, or it can be a lower octave, if you want to do this sort of thing. And that's okay. If you want to play a phrase here, play it a lower octave, play it in a higher octave. That's a really good thing as well to do. That you're starting to repeat yourself, and it's good to repeat yourself. You're not obviously going to do that all the time when you're playing, but just to play. And even, do you know what? Even take that, something as simple as that, a G to an A. Why not over the fretboard, over a whole, because if you've learned those patterns, G's 2 frets down, we know that already from what we've explained previously. And now one phrase becomes many, but now you've got that little phrase all over the fretboard. It's amazing by doing simple things like that really get you get more confident with the fretboard. You get to understand it. You get to know that G is always 2 frets down from an A, always on your fretboard. Always G's always 2 frets down. If it's a guitar made in a normal way, the G is 2 frets. It's a tone down. We know that. So G to A is always going to be in the same place. Also, going back to the minor pentatonic, A to C is always going to be 3 frets up. A to C. Anywhere there's an A, 3 frets up is going to be what we call a minor third in music. Again, practice that maybe. Then you can connect your A with your G, or your A with your C. See, and we're building this up. Because if the information, not all the time of course, but most of the time, if you can do it on this string, you can do it on this string, next string, etc., etc. Of course there's limitations, there's times where exceptions that doesn't happen, but a lot of time, if you can do one little phrase or lick on one string, find that on another string, find it on another string, and now you're opening up your fretboard more, but you're doing it in a way that you're not just, it's unexplored territory. You're coming from something, a reference point of something that you've already learned. So getting back to the melody thing, so I might take that G and A and the C. So I might go. And if you can't get those right off first time, join the club, because I didn't. Just practice it slowly and go, well, the same thing, A. and listen to it and listen and listen and compare. But the more you do that, it's about, it's not, it's, the scale is a selection of notes. It's like handing an artist a selection of paints on a palette. The paints, there could be 5 paints on the palette, there could be 10 paints, and that could be the notes of your scale. But it doesn't mean you're going to use all the paint all the time. You know, you could, you can, well, there's fantastic artwork with a pencil or charcoal. Or there's fantastic paintings with lots of colours. So it's the same with guitar, playing lead guitar. Some of the best solos in the world don't use all the notes on the fretboard. So it's about not necessarily getting lots of note choices. It's about being able to use what you've got with confidence and using it well, and then being able to build on it and add a bit more and add a bit more. And eventually what happens is you'll see that your fingerboard is all connected. You see it as, wherever you are, you're never far away from somewhere else that you already know. So, so many ways to look at this. There's no kind of one way, and of course, anything else that's going to help you, it's going to make it easy for you just to develop your plan. Just great, grab it, But it's about all these little approaches that you can do, and spend a lot of time just sitting with a couple of notes. Something simple as this. Like if I use A, C and D, I'll add the G. Just play around with those couple of notes. Don't worry about going anywhere else. Then, if you do decide to move, find the same notes. And now I'm going between the two. Just playing the same thing, or not. Just find something to play, and just play it and play it over in any variation using the notes of the scale. And eventually what happens is you get to know the notes of the scale, like a minor pentatonic, and then you can start adding other notes to it. There's a lot of great notes you can add. The minor pentatonic and the major pentatonic are great scales to use because they have 5 notes, A, C, D, E, G, back to A. There's the 5, A, C, D, E, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Play around with that, and then once you're comfortable with that, then you can, there's then a lot of other notes you can add to that, but don't even worry about those at this stage. Just practice the minor pentatonic. Key of A, it doesn't matter what key you do it in because it's a pattern. But what I do recommend is you learn the notes, so whatever key you're doing it in, learn those notes so you know what you're playing. So that you know that's a G, that's a D, E, C, you just know those notes. And you can check that from that little rule I explained at the start. B, C, D, E, E, F, G, G, A, B, C, D, C, D, D, E, F, G, A. So you can work out the notes fairly quickly if you use that little kind of thing I described at the start, Okay. So, very different octaves from the neck. What I would say, keep it musical, keep it simple. Don't try to go beyond what you're capable of going and find yourself getting lost. or, or not. If you're, yeah, I'm thinking of you if you're gigging. But if you're playing in the house, if you want to explore, yes, you know, start exploring. But keep coming back to what you know, and make that concrete and adding to that, and then add a wee bit more. Just add a wee bit more. Don't be trying to add a whole lot more. You don't need to. Um, you definitely don't need to. I'll give you an example, not in the key of A or A minor, but John Mayer's new single, which is everybody's going mad over. It's great. It's a great single. It's a key of E. He's using E major pentatonic, and most of the solo is coming from that shape of that E major pentatonic. He plays around here for a bit. You know, so say you don't have to play or know a lot to play. It's just about playing it, and then you get that confidence, and then you get better at the delivery of it. You're more confident in how you deliver it, and then it just starts to sound better, and then that gives you a bit more confidence, and you can add another note or another position. But just do it slowly, because the guitar's not going anywhere. It'll be there tomorrow. Pick it up tomorrow. It'll be the same guitar if you're in standard tuning, and add a bit more, and the next day add a bit more, or not. Just keep going over and over in it. And eventually it starts to build up, and then you start this. It doesn't seem as just like a blank piece of wood, as it did for me for many years. After a while, you start to kind of see it in a musical sense, you know. Well, anyway, I don't know really if there's any questions or anybody. What time is it there? I'm sort of looking at. We're going nearly an hour. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Over the next few days, I'll do my best to answer any questions. Go back to the start, watch it over again, over and over, and just take it slowly, add pieces to it, and enjoy it. That's the main thing, to enjoy it. And you know, if you're interested in one-to-one lessons via Skype or Zoom or anything, contact me. So send me an email, royfultonmusic@hotmail.co.uk. We'll get something organised, you know. But anyway, hopefully that's helped. Hopefully you've got something out of that, and just get practicing, but do it slowly and enjoy it. Stay safe, and if you haven't done so, subscribe, or please subscribe to the channel. Give me the likes and all the rest of that nonsense that everybody else is shouting out about. I hate doing that. It's not my form. But anyway, there you go. Take care, look after yourselves, all the best, and I'll see you again. Okay, all the best. Cheers.